Hi, and welcome again to Perspective C. This is Jonathan Gagerson, your host. I am a three-time cancer survivor and been through 174 treatments now, but I'm still smiling. I hope you are too. You'll notice my voice has changed a little bit today, and that's simply because due to side effects from all the radiation and everything happening, I've been dealing with some significant lymphedema in the throat and some other things because I had a head and neck cancer that has caused my voice to change some. So I hope you still show and your support by listening. As today, one of the most powerful things I'm going to talk about today is something that I titled The Suffering Embrace. And when I talk about the suffering embrace, you may sit there and go, what, Gagerson, are you talking about? Well, first of all, I want to share with you what I'm referring to is that I found that when I went through my 5 days after I had my major surgery of being in the hospital, 5 days, and I couldn't have any visitors because it was COVID, and my kids weren't there either anyway, because I was in Houston getting all this done, and I live in Denver, Colorado, that I was finding that I was so longing not only to be hugged, but to also hug, particularly my wife. And the reason was because I had been through so much already when it came to the pain and the immense pain that I had after surgery. Honestly, it wasn't so much the neck. It was actually the leg. The donor site was my most painful, to the point that I remember standing up that I actually pretty much broke out into a sweat and passed out almost because it was the greatest pain I had ever felt. And the suffering that I was having and dealing with while recovering was somewhat escalated also by the fact that, granted, my nurses were awesome, everybody was fabulous, but there was no one there for me to hold a hand with, or to touch, or to embrace who I truly loved, because they were not allowed in the hospital due to COVID. And it's an amazing, amazing feeling when that is taken away from you and there's really nothing you can do about it. There was no way for me to get an embrace by anyone I cared about or loved for a minimum of 5 days. And I know some people have been through things a lot longer. There's no question about it. Yet I will share with you that after I got out of that hospital and they wheeled me down and my wife pulled into the car turnaround or the patient pickup area, I immediately started to weep because I was so excited to see her, and all I wanted to do was to feel her embrace and for me to embrace her. And I call that the suffering embrace, because we hug our loved ones each day, and sometimes it may be just a side hug, a good hug here and there. Some people are like, I'm not into hugs. That's okay. But when you've been put through a tremendous amount of suffering that was not by your choice, and when you've been put through a tremendous amount of pain, not by your choice, you tend to long for the love you feel when you embrace somebody you truly love. The first suffering embrace I had was then, when my wife picked me up and we hugged in the carport, in the car, for probably 3 to 5 minutes. Now, you may think, oh, that's not a long time, but imagine staying embraced and hugging someone for, let's just say, 3 minutes. I challenge you today to that person you love, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, Maybe it's your son, daughter, uncle, whoever that is that you just love so much. I challenge you to go up and give them a hug and just hold it. Probably after a minute, it may feel a little awkward. After 2 minutes, the person's going to go, "You okay?" And at 3 minutes, when you let go, they're going to look at you and go, "Is there something you need to tell me?" And the reason is because you're sharing love, but and you're hugging, but there's definitely a different type of hug when it's a suffering embrace, because my wife and I didn't want to let go. Another time, when we finally returned from Houston after this massive surgery, and many of you know I have 4 kids, and they're wonderful. The first person I saw was my daughter, my older daughter, and she came up and ran out and gave me a huge hug. And again, I started to weep, and just feeling her love and presence was so overwhelming. And then my other daughter, she gave me a huge hug and just said, "Daddy, I love you so much, miss you so much, you're amazing." And just feeling that suffering embrace and just being able to hold them was so special. And then my youngest son, he just ran up to me and grabbed me, and we hugged. And then later on that day, my oldest son came home, who was, 19, 20. And he came up to me in the kitchen, and he just grabbed me and brought me in and held me. And we held each other for several minutes, and we both actually started to weep because it was a suffering embrace. It was an embrace filled with so much love and caring and treasuring each other. That's something that had never been felt before in any kind of hug that I've ever given or have ever received, because there was so much power and understanding what this means to really embrace somebody with your arms and to bring them in and to feel them, the amount of love you're sharing and you want to just pour out and give them. And that hug meaning, I have you. It's okay. I'm with you. You can count on me. And I'm so happy you're here. That hug is only found when we go through such a trying time, that when you realize when the people you love are possibly removed or are not permitted to see you, or you can't get to them, where all you want to do is just get to them and hold them. And that hold is what I call the suffering embrace. We all need to think about this a little bit more, about how can we embrace that every day, about the suffering embrace for the ones we love. Now, we don't want to have to go through such pain and go through such removal of the loved ones and go through just torment to feel it. We want to be able to feel it when things are going well, when things are not going well, but we want to be able to feel it every day, that when we give them a hug, they just embrace, and we embrace them like no tomorrow, where they just grab us and we grab them and bring them close and take that moment where we're saying, I love you. I have you. I'm with you. I'm so happy you're here. That's what we call the suffering embrace. And ever since then, that I've had my surgery and did what I needed to do to live and to go through chemo and all the radiation that I have, and I still deal with side effects every single day, immense side effects. When I see my kids in the morning or in the afternoon and I give them a hug, granted, I don't hold them for 3 to 5 minutes each time, but I give them a hug that's much more meaningful today than it ever was before. And I want to convey that feeling to you, that when you go to hug the ones you love, you truly love and care about, have the thought in your mind that as you hug them, thinking, I love you. I'm here for you. I'm so happy you're here. I cherish you. Have those thoughts in your mind as you hug them for that. Maybe it's 10 seconds. But when you have that in your mind as you hug them, you're going to relay that to them, and they're going to feel that. And you're going to see a smile on their face because they will reciprocate that back to you. And so there's a way to give that suffering embrace every day to the people you love without you having to go through the suffering. Unfortunately, I did. I've had to go through the immense amount of suffering, and I still do each day. I have suffering that I deal with. Frankly, my suffering will not end until I am 6 feet underground, and for my faith, I meet Jesus. Yet until then, the suffering that I have, I'm going to use it and turn it and weld it into something along with help from my God to be able to go, let's use this for good. And the good part of one of the just things that he shared with me was the suffering embrace of holding on to that person that you cherish so much, or the people you cherish so much. I mean, imagine the people you cherish so much where you are told you can't see them or hug them, and there's nothing you can do. And I know there's soldiers who go overseas. There's people, heroes all day. But I know they feel that too. And that when they come home and they get to have that hug again, it's a suffering embrace. The suffering embrace is the most powerful embrace you could feel. It's the most powerful way to say, I love you, I care for you, I cherish you, I'm so glad you're here. It's that suffering embrace that we should treasure and be thankful for that we can do it. Because if I didn't have great doctors, if I didn't have the great support system and also the fortitude, tenacity to be able to say, I'm going to attack this cancer hard, I may have never been able to experience a suffering embrace. And the hugs are limited. We have to realize we're only here for a short time. We're only here for so long. So if we're only here for so long, why would we be stingy with our suffering embraces? Why would we not make a point to say, I love you? Why would we not make a point to say before you go to the grocery store and people are in the house to just say goodbye to each of them real quick before you head out? Why would we not do that? Because are we too busy? Has life gotten us hardened? Our struggles so bad that we're casting out the ones we love and not taking the time to bring them in? Perspective C family, I gotta tell you that as you go out through your day and every day, remind yourself, suffering embrace. I need to hug and hold on to those that I love and have the thought that I mean this. Don't just hug and say good morning, but as you hug, have the thought in your head, I love you, I cherish you, I care for you, I'm so glad you're here. Have that in your mind. Maybe you decide to even vocalize it out loud, to share with them, to say this out loud every time you give that suffering embrace. I had a suffering embrace with my wife after that surgery. Suffering embrace when I finally got home with each one of my children. Suffering embrace with my brothers when I finally got to see them again. My mom, my dad, certain great friends that I got to see again. Suffering embrace. And one of the most important suffering embraces that I want to teach you to give is when you give a suffering embrace to yourself. We have to embrace ourselves like no tomorrow and to say, yes, this is not something like I'm better than you or anything like that, but this is just a matter of saying, love yourself. Love yourself. The struggles, the pain, and the suffering that you have been through, many others have been through, but rather than let it define you for worse and question, why am I here? Why am I feeling this pain? Let it decide instead to say, you know what? I'm feeling this pain and I felt the suffering and I have these heartaches. But because of that, I'm going to cherish myself that much more and embrace myself with love to know that I am still alive and breathing. Embrace yourself with a suffering embrace every day. Embrace those you love with a suffering embrace every day. Because if we don't, what's the alternative? No love, no caring. Children growing up with wondering, do my parents love me? Husbands and wives not sharing their love for one another like they should. But I will share with you when you may think that when I got dropped off at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning at the hospital, said goodbye to my wife, knowing I wouldn't see her for at least 5 days, possibly 7. We embraced then. And of course we hugged and tears. I walked in, went to where I needed to go. But I will tell you, there was a part of me, of course, with anything. Maybe I might not see her again. I don't know. I had faith that I would, but I wasn't sure. So when I woke up and I FaceTimed her and immediately broke out in tears because I was just so excited to see her because that meant I lived through it. And I'm here. The suffering then began with pain. Day 1, my leg, they had to change out the wound bandage on my leg each day, and that didn't tickle. My neck being tight and swollen from the graft they put on there where I couldn't really move much. Day 2, having to stand up and feeling the pain just shoot down my leg where I basically just crashed back down on the bed and looked at people and said, "Are you crazy to make me do this?" Day 3, being up all night with just stomach aches and pain from medication, actually. Day 4, being so tired, but getting up to walk, and now I could actually walk somewhat with a limp, not feeling, still feeling pain, but not the level of pain that I was feeling. And then day 5, waking up praying that this would be the day that I can go home. This would be the day that I will see my wife. This will be the day that I can embrace her. And then finding out at 12 o'clock that day that I would be released and they would let me go. And that was a happy day. No, there's a suffering embrace. Don't take hugs for granted. Share your love. I'm Jonathan Gagerson. This is Perspective C. Thank you for listening.